Welcome to Coffee with Jesus. I am your host, Elizabeth Bristol, and once again I'm here with my friend and special guest, Paige Van Meter Sturgeon, and we're talking about how difficult it is when we're grieving and we have little support. What it's like to have that lack of support because of the people that either aren't there or can't be there for us. Right, Paige? You know, that whole thing with the levels of intimacy that people are open and available for. Could you explain that a little bit, Paige?
Sure, and this is from a teaching from Arthur Burke, The Levels of Intimacy, and that is people are at different comfort levels of connection. So
yes.
The first level would be like a cliche, how are you? Fine. Second level would be more like a fact, what are you doing today? I have to run to the store. The third level would be like your opinion about something. How are the kids doing? Something of that sort. And those are the kind of the three safest levels. And then you get to the higher levels of really sharing your feelings, being able to affirm or confront someone, being able to share your dreams or your disillusionments with life. That is a much higher level. So when you are grieving, you are usually craving a higher level connection because you are so empty. And so if somebody comes to you with just the lower level, you can feel very alone, frustrated, angry, ignored, and then you have to deal with those feelings in addition with the grief that you're already going through. And so one of the tools in Grief Share is to write a letter about what you need from the people in your life so that you have an awareness of what you can ask from them when they call, to not expect them to offer it. So let's say they call and they ask you, did you do your laundry? I'm just giving this as an example. You can be like, yes, I am going to take care of that today, but I really don't care about that. I really just would love it if you would just come over and be with me. Nice. And so instead of getting frustrated that they're only asking you about the tangible task, which feels very safe for them, you can invite them to what it is that you're really needing and give them that opportunity. Now, they still may not be able to do that, and that's okay. But it's you really naming and being real with what your needs are, desiring it, not expecting it, because by not speaking it, then the anger and the resentments build up. And then you're dealing with a lot of dynamics in your relationships with people that means a whole nother level of hurt. So you want to try to clear that out as best you can so that you're not even more hurting than you need to be.
Yes, I found even as I was grieving my mom, she was a person who really liked facts. That was her level of comfort when we were communicating. You know, where were you? What were you doing? And I always wanted to go deeper with her. Being who I am and being that she was my mom, I wanted a deeper level of connection with her. So in some ways, just even forgiving her for not being able to do that, even though now she's gone. You know, I love her. I love what we did have. And, you know, we were talking about that too. One of the things that came to my mind is at some level, I did understand, I guess, her love language. You know, she really was one who liked those words of affirmation. And so when we do understand each other in these ways, how we can gift other people with, you know, meet them where they're at. And I had given her that year, one year for Christmas, a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul. And it was really childlike, you know, like I did it with construction paper and I had quotes from people. You know, this one friend from church had said it's not Christmas Eve until Julie sings "Oh Holy Night." And there was just really sweet things that I loved and put them in the book for her. And it was one of those things she kept for a long time. You know, it went with her to the facility when she was, you know, before she died.
Well, and I want to clarify with people that Elizabeth used the model of the book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and shared stories of her mom, wrote those out in that style and created a book for her mom. and
Yes.
which is such a beautiful, thoughtful gift. And one thing that we had said is the bittersweet of really celebrating and noting, writing it down. Elizabeth did this as a gift for her mom, but maybe even doing that for the person you lost, like, Christmas, this person would do this, and that's what I associate with them around Christmas time or around birthdays or favorite memories of trips, like really specifically writing out those memories, because that helps you to have the gratitude, the enjoyment, the kind of the sweet, bittersweet of, oh, I remember her singing "Oh Holy Night" at Christmas, and it's and part of grief is when you're remembering them, and it doesn't cause a knife in your heart, but more of a remembering joy of them transition. And it'll be both for a while, but hopefully as time progresses, you'll have more of the, I'm grateful that I got to see my mom sing "Oh Holy Night" at church. I can visualize that. I can hear her voice. I am in that moment, and that brings you to the gratitude over the grief, which is something you can intentionally practice more. When you're feeling the pain of losing them, try to call up a memory. Try to call up their face. Try to call up something that is like a hug versus a hurt, a mental hug instead of the hurt of their loss. So that's why I love that you did that book. And even though that was something that was given to her, which is precious, but that's something that a person can do, just writing it down on paper or on your phone or anything, on notes, all of the memories, the impressions, the things that would speak to your heart about that person that maybe you're not able to enjoy at this moment, but that maybe you will as your grief has started to resolve more.
Yeah, and this is another thing that comes to my mind is I've been thinking that, of course, these people that we love, there were hard times with them, right? With our fathers, like we've talked about. I just, it's so interesting to me, kind of a gift of grief is like no longer are those things going to happen, right? We're not going to bother each other in the ways that we did when he was here and when he was alive. And I don't know, there's a freedom to go there with the things that I really did miss about him and love about him, and those funny memories, of things that I don't know. It's interesting how grief is going through all these different stages of it, and processing it. But again, like we're talking about a lack of support, sometimes the people around us are just not able to be there for us in the way we wish they could be.
That's right. And then that causes a whole nother level of pain, like we were saying. And so the encouragement would be to, in a gentle way, speaking the truth in love, saying, I thank you for bringing me a meal and dropping it off, but I would have really liked it if you stayed, rather than being, well, they just threw a meal at me and I really would have, and then being hurt that they didn't make time for you, especially if your love language is quality time, which mine is, and even knowing what your love language is, gifts, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, quality time, that it's usually what will help fill your love tank up so then you can speak to that to other people. And asking for it rather than being disappointed or expecting it and not getting it, but just saying, this is what I need. And they will be grateful because they're sort of in this anxiety whirlwind of, I don't want to mess it up. And so a lot of people will do nothing because they have so much anxiety about messing up what they would say. They do nothing. And it's not that they don't care, it's that they don't know. They feel more anxiety about what to do. So the more that you can educate them, and then also you will be a person who can comfort others better because of knowing what you needed at this time. And there's a Bible verse about that, with the comfort that you have received to comfort others. That's 2 Corinthians 1:4.
I love that.
look through that. So anyway, it's just knowing that you're also learning what is really helpful as you grieve, and you didn't know that before. And so you may not have helped someone when they were grieving in the past like you know you should have done. And you could even reach out to that person and say, wow, now that I'm going through this, I'm sorry that I didn't offer you blah, blah, whatever. And then educating other people, because the more, that just helps the whole cycle of whatever your realm of influence of people to be able to love each other better, which unfortunately we're all in the school of learning to love the people in our lives better that are around us, and we're all learning. So giving that grace, that they are not communicating they don't love you. They're just really afraid of doing the wrong thing.
And just like you mentioned, I love that book. So I just wanted to say a little bit more about it for someone who may not have heard of it. The book is called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, and it goes into each one of those, words of affirmation, acts of service, and it's great, isn't it, Paige? It's just like we're talking about the levels of intimacy, finding out what our love language is and what the love language of each of the people around us is. It just helps us understand how to care better for each other, how to ask better for what we need. It's just a great tool for communication and really fun. I really liked reading it. It got me excited, of what gifts that I could give the people in my life, or like you're saying too, what gifts I could ask for. Because I think especially with grief, we do want to help each other. And I remember when I didn't know how to do it either. And it was, oddly enough, I was drawn to this topic of grief. And so I, did more research. I did that paper on it for school and, just wanting to learn how to help other people. And that's another one of those ways that we can do that.
And the fact that even while you're grieving, you can bless others, that they're all building God's kingdom no matter what's going on in our lives. And unfortunately, we're in that game and we can't just sit on the sidelines. And people are watching us, and that when we grieve, they're really asking themselves the question, does their faith really work? And so, which is a little bit stressful to be like, I want to represent that I do have a maintained faith in God even when hard things have happened to me, because that is pointing them to the true hope that we have. Where else can we go, Lord, but to you? And all of the other things are puddles in this world versus the real living water that he offers. So grieving well is not just for ourselves. It's for the community that God has placed us in. Because we said this last time, that if you don't allow yourself to feel so that you can heal, that you're like that bottle of soda that's being shaken up all the time that then explodes on people at moments that you can't predict and hurts them. So if you're grieving well, then you're not going to be hurting other people as you are hurting. Hurting people hurt people. And so the more that you're healing people aren't hurting people as much. So the benefit is not just for yourself, but it's for your friends, your family. I mean, the network goes on people you work with, who you encounter in your day. Are you smiling at the person at the checkout, or are you scowling? Little things that just help be a light in this dark world, which you can be even when you're in a dark time. You can be a light.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to that other one-liner that you have shared in the past. The gratitude is the shovel that will dig you out of grief. And so as we close today, I do want to invite people back to our next podcast on the tools to help with grief. And gratitude is definitely one of those, isn't it?
It is. And that quote, gratitude is the shovel that will dig you out of grief, is in one of the Grief Share videos, which I've recommended people to go to griefshare.org and sign up for the daily devotionals. Try to find a Grief Share group at your local church. or do
Mhm.
it online if possible. But in person is better because you're supported by other people who are in the same process as you, and that can be very powerful and validating. But gratitude,
Absolutely.
it says in the Bible that a cheerful heart does good like medicine. And it's not that you are Pollyanna and cheerful when you're hurting. It is that you're able to still acknowledge that God is good, that there was good from the person that you lost that you can enjoy, and that you still have something to stand on in your life, which is the foundation of God, which one of the hymns, It Is Well With My Soul, that is one of the most popular ones that most people know, maybe even second to Amazing Grace, was written by a man who was in a boat crossing over the part of the ocean where all of his children died. And he asked the captain of the ship to tell him when they were crossing over those coordinates. And as he stood on that ship over that spot where his children were in their watery grave below him, I mean, he wrote that song, It Is Well With My Soul. And it's just, it brings that, look up the lyrics to that. When you imagine him writing that in a place of great pain, and yet it has blessed countless people generationally in multiple places around the world, because he was able to offer gratitude to God for something. It is well with my soul.
Yeah, it does. It makes me think, I love the stories behind the hymns. And so many of the stories are like that. It's in this super hard place, maybe the hardest place the person ever went through. And God was able to do something really special. And so that also makes me think of us, right? Like he's not, like grief, you know, he will work through it. He promises, right, to work through, for those of us who love him, that all things work together for good. And even in this time that feels so painful and so hard, God has a plan and is going to do something. We're going to have testimonies when we come out of this. We're going to be able to help people in a different way that we didn't understand before. It's not a waste, right?
I just had this thought come to my mind when you said the word testimony. There's the word test.
Yes.
And the word testimony.
Oh, it's test first. Yes.
Oh, and so yes, we are tested. People are going to be testing us to see how we grieve, to see if we really still have a faith to hold on to. God, I mean, our faith is being tested. The whole count it all joy, brethren, when you face trials of various kinds, because it can produce all of these character benefits. But one thing that you and I talked about was that God does work all things together for good in his own timing, but only if we ask him and invite him into our circumstances.
Yes.
So if our door of our heart is closed and we're so mad that this has happened, then he can't work out any good because we've shut ourselves off. But if we say, Lord, I don't understand this, I never will, but will you please help this pain to not be wasted? That's what a friend of mine said, like, please help this pain to not be wasted. So I just wanted to share that.
Yes. Wow. So much. So as we wrap up today, Lord, I just want to lift up every single one who's listening. And what I really love is you know exactly what they're going through. You know exactly where they are at any given moment. You know what the season is like for them. And I thank you that two or more are gathered here together with you. And we are lifting up our sisters and brothers who are grieving. And we're asking you to minister to them in the ways that they need it. And to do that, to bring a support system around them, Lord, when they don't have it. To draw them into the one-on-one time with you, to let, you know, so that you can minister to them in ways that nobody else can. And to let them know that it's okay to feel this pain and to just process it with you, because you are someone who can take it and use it, and we just ask you to do that in Jesus' name.
Yes, I agree with this, and let none of our listeners' pain be wasted, and let them see your presence in their pain. I just ask you in Jesus' name. And thank you, Elizabeth, for inviting me again, and blessings to everyone.
Yes. Yes. God bless you.